Now that your hats are drawn, we're ready to move on to painting your winter hat value scale. We're going to start with your plain hue in the center hat. So you're going to choose one of your colors within your ice cube tray. Any of your plain colors without mixing into anything. Do not dip your brush in water because remember that this paint does not like water, so you can go directly into the ice cube tray. You're just going to take your plain color and paint your center hat, so the hat in the middle. You'll have two blank ones on either side of it, and very carefully paint that center hat with your plain hue. You might want to use a smaller brush to try to get in at all of your details. You may have to do a couple layers so that it's not super see-through. If you have a pom-pom up top, you might want to go for a more dry brush technique, so a little bit less paint so it looks a little scratchy, or you might want it to be a little more see-through. That is up to you. But your center hat is going to be your plain hue or your plain color. Once you're finished with your hue, we're going to begin making tints. Now remember, your tint is going to be lighter, so we're going to add white. So take a scoop of whatever your plain hue was and put it in your mixing tray. Try to get as much of the paint off of your brush and into your mixing tray as possible. Then paint the bottom of your water cup to get all the paint off, scrape the edges, and then dry your brush on your paper towel. After your brush is dry, grab a little bit of white, maybe a small scoop, and mix it in with your plain hue. This will give you a little bit of a lighter version of whatever your center hue is. We're going to paint that on one of the hats on either side of your plain hue. I'm choosing to do my tints towards the left. If you want to do yours towards the right, that's fine. But we're going to do it on whatever hat is closest to your center one. Please don't do it on the very far outside one. Just paint that hat in the same way you did your center one. You may need to do a couple different coats, but use a small brush and fill that in, staying in your lines as best as possible. After you finish that hat, make sure all your paint is off, and then paint your paintbrush in the bottom of your water cup, dry it off really good, and we're going to go even lighter for your lightest tint. So get another scoop of white and just add it into the pile you already have. If you did this last week and you're moving on a different week, you'll need to remix it. Just make sure it's lighter than the one you did before. We're going directly next to whatever your tint was that you used previously. So if you're going towards the left, it'll be all the way far left. If you're going towards the right, it will be all the way far right. So mix up your lightest tint and paint your hat. Once your tints are done, it's time to start working on your shade. So clean that brush out really good, dry it nice. Then you're going to get a scoop of whatever your hue is, put it in a mixing tray in a new spot, and then wash your brush, dry your brush, and get a tiny dot of black. Tiny, tiny, tiny dot. Black's going to take over really quickly, so don't do too much. Here, I think I did a little bit too much. So when I started painting, I realized it got way too dark, way too quick. So I grabbed a little bit more of my original hue and mixed it in just to lighten it back up a little bit because I didn't want it to be that dark that fast. Very carefully paint in your first shade. It should be next to whatever your center hue is. And then we'll be ready for your last one. For your last shade, you're just going to make sure your brush is clean, make sure it's dry, and then add one small dot of black into your pile to make it your darkest color yet. Once that's mixed up, you can go ahead and paint and then put your work on the drying rack.